Hello, everyone. I'm Associate Professor Hoo Tiang Boon from the School of Social Sciences. It's a real pleasure for me to be here to share more about the philosophy, politics, and economics, PPE in short, program, which is a single integrated major offered by the NTU School of Social Sciences. Before I share more about the PPE program, allow me to read this passage from a Guardian news report. Right, it says Monday, 13 April 2015, on a typical day in modern British politics, philosophy, politics, and economics PPE graduate Ed Miliband launched the Labour Party's general election manifesto, which was examined by the BBC's political editor, PPE graduate Nick Robinson, by the BBC's economics editor, PPE graduate Robert Peston, and by the director of the Institute for Fiscal Studies, PPE graduate Paul Johnson, which was criticized by the then Prime Minister, PPE graduate David Cameron, which is defended by the Labour Shadow Chancellor, PPE graduate Ed Balls. Now, taking a look at this passage, you can see that a common denominator uh, based on the individuals being named in this passage, they all graduated from Oxford. But beyond that, right, it is also no coincidence, I would argue, that the individuals named in this report, and they are all prominent individuals at that time in 2015, politically speaking, is that they all majored in a similar degree program, which is philosophy, politics, and economics. Well, I would argue it's no coincidence because um, by majoring in that specific degree program, these individuals would have gained the necessary skill sets, such as in public speaking, public policy analysis, and political leadership that would allow them to excel in their public uh, service roles. Now, but what exactly is PPE? Well, it is a interdisciplinary major that draws on the synergies of three disciplines critical to guiding thinking and policy towards the improvement of economies and societies. But what are these three disciplines? Well, it is generally believed to be philosophy, politics, and economics. This three unique combination. But what is philosophy? Philosophy literally means the love of wisdom, right? And it entails questioning assumptions, um, having a better understanding about the nature of knowledge and reality. And this involves ethical reflection, um, trying to understand logical reasoning, right? And at the end of looking through the world from a philosophical perspective, it is this idea that in order to answer some of the complex questions that bedevil the world, it is also important to question how you arrive at these answers in the first place. Right? And intimately connected to the study of philosophy is also about having a better understanding of the structures of governance that make up human societies, right? So here we are talking about the structures of power, and it's not just talking about it in a domestic sense. We are also talking about external power structures, and here we refer to foreign policy and international relations that in turn shape the internal power structures of the world. Let me give an example. For example, um, what happens in the US presidential elections will have a bearing for the rest of the world because the US presidents that essentially decides on US foreign policy would inevitably uh, affect the rest of the world. But developments and important events in the world, like wars, major financial crisis, will also have a major impact on how American voters look at the US president. And the US president, depending on how he decides on his foreign policy, would have an impact on what happens to him in the US presidential election. So it's intertwined and the impact works both ways. Last but not least, PPE also involves the study of economics, which is about looking at how people and societies um, use limited resources and how they come to decisions regarding these resources and how they respond to incentives. So really the study of economics is really about understanding decision making at multiple levels, both micro and macro, and looking at its consequences on the use of resources, markets, and society. Uh, but why PPE then? What is the relevance of PPE? Why is PPE important? Now, to give a very brief, historical review, well, the study of PPE as a single integrated major was essentially pioneered by Oxford University uh, more than 100 years ago in the 1920s. Well, as an alternative to what was known as the classics then. Now, of course, today, the study of PPE is offered by many leading universities around the world, such as King's College, LSE, Yale, and Warwick, for example, and of course here in NTU as well. Well, this is born out of the recognition that many real-world questions are essentially wicked problems, right? And in order to address wicked problems, to even understand them, you require interdisciplinary approach. But what exactly are wicked problems in the first place? Well, wicked problems are questions and issues that have interdependent causes and factors, and in such a way that they're intertwined in such a way that there's no definitive formula or solution to fully address them, right? There's no one single answer or solution that can essentially address and tackle wicked problems, right? For example, how do you resolve poverty, right? That is an example of a wicked question, right? A wicked problem, right? Another example of a wicked problem is should economic growth take precedence over social progress, right? And if you take a look at this question from a PPE perspective, right? For example, from a economics perspective, right? The answer will be yes, right? Because you would obviously want to grow the economic pie, which means more economic dividends for the rest of society. But if you take a look at it from a philosophical perspective, then you may need to question yourself or ask the question of what exactly is progress in your society, because different societies value different things, and because of that, they define progress differently, right? So progress in one society may be different in progress in another society, right? So and last but not least, if you take a look at it from a political perspective, and even from a political perspective, there are multiple ways of looking at an issue. For example, if you take a look at this question from a political vote maximization model, this is really a question about whether or not politicians, or what are some of the kinds of things that would influence how politicians come to a decision, and what kind of decisions they will need to take in order to get re-elected or to get voted in, right? So in short, to understand or to even try to grasp a wicked problem such as the one that I've posed here, right? You cannot fully grasp this kind of wicked problems from a singular or isolated mode of analysis, right? You need an integrated, combined, comprehensive way, and it is believed that PPE, looking at this issue both from a philosophical, political, and economic perspective, and in an integrated manner, would give you the best intellectual foundation and understanding, both in terms of depth, nuance, and breadth, to understand the complexities of social phenomena. Now, why should you do PPE at NTU? Right? After all, many leading universities also offer PPE. Well, what is distinctive about the PPE program at NTU is that first and foremost, it is adapted to an Asian and Singapore's context, right? This means that the modules that you'll be taking, right, in NTU's PPE program would reflect that. And to develop this point even more, it will also leverage on NTU's strengths as a leading technological university. So the curriculum would emphasize themes such as quantitative methods, um, issues relating to Singaporean governance, Asian regionalism, and indeed address questions that intersect science, technology, ethics, and society. And if I may share further, when it comes to the structure of specialization uh, for the NTU PPE, there's a degree of flexibility in the sense that you can choose both a bipartite or a tripartite structure. What do I mean by that? If you decide to go on a bipartite focus, thematic focus, basically it means that you will take beyond the core courses, you will take more of the major prescribed electives or what we call MPE from any two of the three specializations in PPE. So you could take more major prescribed electives in either, for example, either politics or economics. It's up to you, right? Or if you decide to choose a tripartite structure of specialization, it basically means that you have an equal balance of major prescribed electives that cover all three disciplines of philosophy, politics, and economics. But bear in mind that what we are talking about here, it is a single integrated major, right? So we're not talking about a triple degree program, right? It is a single integrated major that integrates the best of three worlds, the best of all three disciplines of philosophy, politics, and economics, and it will culminate essentially as a 4 years honors program, right? And one thing which is heavily emphasized in NTU is that when it comes to our PPE program, we emphasize on an applied approach, meaning that what you learn in the classroom, we want you to apply in the real world, right? And how would you do that, right? There are opportunities for overseas studies exchange, and indeed even for to go out to work, having a stint um, in companies, public sector companies, private sector companies as interns, and internship is compulsory um, uh, for the PPE degree program, right? And when it comes to your final year project, what is also unique is that for most degrees program, you just focus your research question on that specific discipline. But in the case of PPE, you're required to look at questions which are essentially interdisciplinary, and that particular question must straddle at least two disciplines, right? So for your research project, for your final year project, you would have to look at a question that straddles both, for example, politics or economics, philosophy and economics, or indeed, if you if you are able to create, you are able to come up with that particular question that straddles all three disciplines of philosophy, politics, and economics, right? Then there will also be ample opportunities to take part in policy workshops, policy seminars by prominent policy individuals and political scientists, economists, and as well, we also PPE program itself. There is also a dedicated PPE scholarship that offers terms that are comparable to the best scholarships offered by NTU, right? So this means that funding for that covers full tuition fees and all other related allowances that are comparable to the best scholarships that NTU can offer. And here for PPE, deserving students, I encourage you, to apply for the PPE scholarship. Okay. In terms of career prospects, well, it is First and foremost, it is you can think of the PPE program as some kind a training and preparation for a leadership role in the public sector, right? So indeed, the PPE program takes a special interest in preparing students for important public service roles. But having said that, it is not just uniquely a public service, right? You'll be well equipped. Indeed, the skill sets that you will gain in PPE will allow you to succeed in the private sector as well, including developing a strong academic and intellectual foundation to pursue graduate studies, right? So that you will gain skill sets that would be relevant and indeed useful for a wide range of industries. That includes public administration, defense, management, finance, communications, business, risk consultancy, education, research, and indeed community services. So, if I may summarize and end with a quote from Lord Glasman, who is a prominent labor peer and indeed well-known intellectual in the United Kingdom. Lord Glasman describes PPE essentially as combining the status of an elite university program, right? It is the ultimate status of being good at school because top students get into PPE, but at the same time with a stamp of a vocational course. So, it is an elite major, but with real practical value, right? So I would encourage you to apply and to join NTU PPE if you want to have your mind stretched and existing perspectives challenged. And indeed, coming to the NTU PPE program, the hope is that you will develop what I call the eyes of PPE, meaning if you would at the end of this 4-year honors degree program at PPE, you will start to look at real world questions, look at real world issues from a fully integrated perspective of both philosophy, politics, and economics, right? And the hope is that after the 4 years of a PPE program, you'll not see the world in the same way as before, right? So last but not least, I'd like to end by saying that do connect with us through our NTU website, our School of Social Sciences, various social media platforms, and indeed our email. Right. So I hope to see you all at NTU.